music playing.
When I was a little boy around the table at home, I remember very well when company would come.
Good evening. Welcome back to Rectory Ramblings. I'm Father Scalia, and Father Agin is manning the camera this evening. In his place, we have a postulant for the IHMs, Alexis Reavill, and the directress of postulants, Sister Mary Ann, and with us also is little Jimmy Dickens, playing "Take an Old Cold Tater and Wait," which is a song that that Alexis and Sister recommended for our opening. So they passed the country music test for appearing on Rectory Ramblings. But anyhow, Alexis has been here at St. James for what, 2 months?
Over 2 months, yeah, almost 3 months.
And
Three.
and as part of her postulancy with the IHMs, and thought it'd be nice for her to come on the show, as it is known, and talk to us about a little bit about how you came to know the IHMs, and how you came to discern your vocation, and what is a postulant. I mean, we know that, but that's really kind of like, it's really Catholic-ese,
Yes.
It's kind of like a different language.
It's like nundum terminology.
Nundum.
Yes, nundum.
Wow. That's a new word for me. I've never heard that one. Okay.
See, you need the terminology term, nundum.
Nundum. Okay, now we know what to call it. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what the convent over there is nundum.
It's nundum.
Okay. That makes us priestdom then. So,
yes, it does.
So anyhow, what was your first interaction with the sisters?
Yes, so I first met our sisters when I was 10 years old. I started going to one of the IHM schools called Villa Maria Academy Lower School. It's actually the school that is attached to our mother house. And so I started...
Wow, so this is at headquarters.
It's at headquarters.
This is not just an outpost of IHMs.
Oh, no,
this
no,
is
no.
at headquarters.
It is at the center. You are surrounded by sisters, so you get to see lots of them.
Wow.
And so I went to school there from 5th through 8th grade, and one of the big things for me was we have a retirement home / infirmary literally right across the street called Camilla Hall. And the middle school students get to go over there and get to do service, and they get to meet the sisters and just kind of visit with them as kind of provide company, and you really get to know the sisters. So that for me was really big, because that was like, oh, I really love the sisters. I really love to be around them. But at the time, I wasn't really thinking of religious life as something for me. I was thinking, oh, I kind of wonder what the sisters' life is like, but kind of like I had this image of like the saint card, like I wonder if they just like pray all day when they're not at school, or like stuff like that. And
kind of a typical thought of
exactly.
a girl that age, but right, okay.
Is that what it's really like over there? And so high school, I was not with our sisters, but when I went off to college, I got reconnected by going to Immaculata University, which is the university that was founded by our sisters. And that was...
And it's not too far from there, is it?
Okay, so it's like Mother House, across the street on one side, Camilla, across the street on the other side, Immaculata.
So you really haven't gone very far in life.
I really have not. It's just been within like that 1 mile radius. And my dad, all the time I was growing up and going to Villa, he'd be like, you should go to Immaculata when you're older. That would be wonderful. I was like, who wants to go to the college right across from their middle school? No, Dad, I'm not doing that. He won.
Right. So where was high school?
High school, I did a homeschooling program.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you went to Immaculata. What did you study at Immaculata?
I studied music education.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
With a minor in theology, if I get credit for that.
Sure. I think. I mean, as we discussed before the show, there's a lot of fine theology in country music.
Yes.
Right. So.
Sadly, my music history classes did not cover country music very much. Most of
I'm sure you can remedy that in the future.
Okay, I'll work on that.
But now, so when did the spark or the thought of, gosh, maybe that could be me someday?
Yeah, so it was when I was getting ready to go off to college. I had all these like big life decisions, like where is my life headed, where do I want it to go. And so I was thinking, that was part of the reason I went to a Catholic university. I was like, well, my faith is important to me and it's something I want to grow on at college, and service is something that's very important to me. I love being able to give service, and also I loved music. And while I was at Immaculata, I kind of rediscovered my love for teaching too. So I was like, all right, I have these 4 boxes that whatever I want to do in life, I want them checked off. And the first weekend at Immaculata, freshman orientation, they make the students do a little service trip and go out and do this in the neighborhood. We were helping out at a poor school in a part of Philly. And I remember I loved doing the service. I was like, oh, I want to keep doing that. And one of our sisters came around and was taking pictures of all the service groups. And I just kind of looked at her in that setting, and a light bulb just kind of went off about, well, why don't you think about religious life then?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone suggest it to you, or is it more just kind of an interior thing? Did anybody, did a sister come up to you and say, you should think about this?
No, nobody said anything to me, but I guess other people around me had been thinking about it for a while and everything, but for me, but they didn't say anything to me until after I was like, I'm thinking about religious life. They're like, oh yeah, I was thinking that would be good for you.
That's very, one of our priests would, when he would speak to, for example, the 8th graders about vocations, he would go into the classroom and say, how many of you have thought about becoming a priest or a religious sister? Nobody raises the hand, right? Of course, 8th graders, right?
Yes, no.
And he said, okay, how many of you think that someone in this class right here and now is being called to be a priest or a religious sister? And all the hands went up.
Wow.
And so they may not want to admit it about themselves, but they see it in others. So others, they came clean after your decision. They said, yeah, we saw it all along.
Yes, exactly. You got it.
Okay. Okay, great. And so what was the next step? That was in college, and then?
Yeah, so then I turned to the source of all information. I Googled, what do you do if you're thinking about religious life? So that was my first step, is I really had no idea what to do. So I started internet research.
Of course.
Of course. So it said, if you're thinking about discerning, reach out to communities, get to know sisters. So I knew a girl who was a theology freshman, majoring in theology as a freshman, and the vocation directors at the time, Sister Rose, reached out to her and was like, oh, since you're majoring in theology and are you thinking about religious life? She's like, oh yeah, I'd be interested. And she invited all of our friends who were female. She was like, oh, anybody want to come? And everybody was like, no. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then later I snuck back to her room and I was like, that thing where we're going to go meet the sisters, could I come to that too?
In code, right.
In code,
right.
By the way, that thing nobody else wants to do, I kind of want to do that.
That I don't want to say out loud.
I want to say it out loud, which was a sisters night. So our community offers that as a chance for young women to get to know the sisters, and it's just for an evening for 3 hours, and there's usually dinner, night prayer, and some fun activity, so you get to know each other.
Right. Good to have that connection. But did you already know some of the sisters because of your?
I didn't know any of the sisters there at the sisters' night at that time, but I didn't know some of the sisters at the mother house. I just didn't realize they were still there. If that makes sense.
Yes,
I got reconnected with them not at that point, but later on as I kind of started going on discernment retreats. That was the next step. Is the vocation director said, oh, would you like to come on a discernment retreat, which is a full weekend that we offer from Friday, during non-COVID times.
We haven't had any in COVID.
Yeah, but Friday evening to Sunday about noon, it's a retreat of prayer, getting to know the sisters, talks and everything.
Yeah. Boy, isn't that another wrinkle about COVID, huh? Is that those personal contacts
it's been
that are
I've
so
been to
important?
a lot of Zoom, but
but it doesn't.
But we can't invite. Well, maybe soon. We haven't been able to invite young women to the mother house, but we did a virtual discernment retreat the last week, end of January, and we did it from here. And Alexis was a great help because I was bouncing off her because too much Zoom can kill you, So we had 11 young women sign up for this virtual retreat, and one of the things I discovered because of COVID is that I'm going to continue some virtual activities post-COVID because we had young women from 5 states that were there for we did 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. But the highlight was the sisters from St. James, the last hour on Sunday, did a Q&A. So Alexis went down to the community room, and the technology failed us at first, but we got through that.
We know that feeling.
Yes, and so the young women asked questions, and Alexis ran around the community room. Who wants to answer that? And then they took the laptop and talked to the girls and different.
She was sort of the talk show host. She was Oprah or Phil Donahue, whichever you. Right.
She did that for me.
Okay.
I joked I was the computer butler because I was butlering.
And we also helped me with the breakout room. So she was great. She was my associate in the discernment retreat.
Now, Sister Marianne, what is a postulant?
Well, in our some congregations call them candidates. They have different names for it. But a postulant is the first step of living with the sisters. Pre-postulancy, you're a candidate, and you are getting to know the sisters, but you're home. But when you enter the congregation, our postulancy is almost a full year. It's close to 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
That can vary depending on the person, but traditionally we usually have entrance in September, and then receive the habit, which would be the next step, in August. And that probably will be what happens with Alexis. We'll have to be getting that date when we get back to the mother house.
Okay.
But
if she
I pass.
If she passes. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So far, I'm looking to.
Okay.
We might be getting measured for a habit.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So the postulancy is that first year of living with the sisters, and it's all a continued time of discernment. And then, please God, Alexis will be getting an IHM habit, which would be similar to us in everything, except she will not have a ring because she won't have made her vows.
Mm-hmm.
And her veil will be white as a novice. And she'll get a religious name. So
okay.
Then we'll be calling her sister something or other.
So, okay, well we're gonna have to get to the name in a bit, because I think maybe we could choose it for her now. But
we'll take a poll on Facebook
exactly.
right now.
It's up to the Superior General. You can't do it, Father.
Okay, well. And you said it's a period of discernment, and discernment it's not just Alexis who's discerning, right? The community is.
Correct.
I'm sorry, you're kind of
Yes.
you're
She knows
under
that.
a microscope, and they're looking at her saying, "Well, is she?
Yes. It's mutual discernment.
Yeah, and that's important. So, okay, so Alexis, you had this list of things that you wanted to do.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you discerned that giving up marriage, independence, and wealth was the way to get everything you wanted.
Yes.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
I can, yes. I will make more than a one-word response. It just was, I continued discerning with the sisters. I will say what a big key piece for me was that first discernment retreat I went on. We had a holy hour in our Sacred Heart Chapel, which is just gorgeous. And I just remember sitting there, and it felt like I was home in a way that no place has ever felt before. And so that was kind of like a little clue to me. And as I kept discerning, I kept looking at, like marriage or religious life, it is that freedom. You can choose wherever you want, and God will work good, but it was the more peace, and I felt like I would find more fulfillment in religious life. Mm-hmm. And it is hard to look at some other things, and it's like, oh, it would be very nice to have a family, or sometimes I love my Starbucks. It would be nice to be able to get that all the time. But what is really going to matter is, do you feel really deep down fulfilled and at peace, and union with God? Okay,
mm-hmm. So all those sacrifices, all those no's that you had to say, mm-hmm. are worth that fulfillment.
Yes, are worth yes. And there's a lot of good things too, in case anybody's watching. There's lots of good things too.
Right. Well, it's true for any vocation, right?
Yes,
If-
you always have to say no to something
Yeah,
else. to say
and
yes to
and I
something.
think that's and maybe, I mean, okay. So what have your peers said? Now of course you went to Immaculata, so
Yes.
it's not completely out of the blue. I just when I was discerning the priesthood, I remember. Well, actually, I had discerned already, and I was my senior year in college, and I was telling people I'm going to enter the seminary, study to be a priest, and more than one guy looked at me and he said that means you can't get married, which as if it was news to me. I mean, I knew that already, right?
Yes.
But the first thing that came to their mind was just kind of the sacrifice of it, and not a thought of the fulfillment.
Yes.
But what about your peers? What was kind of their reaction to all of this?
I mean, quite a few of them knew I was discerning, but I would say it was overall a very positive reaction because they knew me and they saw how I was around the sisters. So I think they saw that I really enjoyed being around the sisters, and a lot of them were like, "Of course, we see you around the sisters. We've all been taking bets on when you were entering and stuff like that."
So you couldn't really hide it.
No,
You had all the
all.
symptoms.
I had all the symptoms.
They knew that it was just a
like,
matter of time before you were
smiling.
diagnosed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're smiling around those sisters. You're spending an awful lot of time with them. I mean, some people. I had mainly. I was very lucky. A very positive response.
That's great.
Some people were a little bit like, "Oh, okay, and a lot of people also might not have understood what that meant. I did have to explain it to a lot of people. They're really sort of they're like, "Yeah, so we've seen the movies. Is it like the movies?" And it's like, no. It's not Sister Act. No. Or,
Or the Bells of St. Mary's,
Or
or
the
Going My Way,
or
right?
The Sound of Music. No.
Right.
So just kind of also explaining to them, because I did have quite a few people who weren't familiar with it, because even at Immaculata, it's not everybody's Catholic, so even some people were like, "I haven't grown up with sisters."
Yeah,
this
what
is my first
exactly
time.
is it?
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, there are a lot of Catholics, I think, today who haven't grown up with sisters. We're blessed here at St. James that the sisters are still a presence here, and running the school, present in the school. So
yes, I did have some Catholic friends who told me going to Immaculata, this was their first time being around sisters. Period. They never saw one before, so it is kind of there's a lot of misconceptions. So even for, I think, people who are Catholic, it's you have to meet some sisters and really get to know what's really the deal here.
Right. And when you got to know them, you still thought this was good.
Yes,
right?
I still like them.
Right.
Still wanted to enter.
Right. Okay, great. And so what have you been doing at St. James?
Yes.
So, and we're very honored, by the way, when Sister Mary Sue told me, I was like, wow, this is a great honor for a postulant to, have, or maybe the Mother House is saying, just so you know how bad it can really be. We want you to go to St. James, but
no, they went, "We're gonna send her far away. We're sending her to Virginia." No, I'm kidding. No, I have to say it's been an honor for me. This has been such a wonderful experience. I've really loved it. Everybody's been fantastic. I've been working with the two music teachers at St. James. So since I have my degree in music education, I'm a certified teacher. I've been working with them. I've been teaching some classes. I teach preschool every week. I love preschool. They're so sweet.
They are, but the attention span is so small.
Like in that.
Yeah, I just.
Well, I only have them for 10 minutes each class. So
yeah,
that really
that would
helps.
be too much for me. I love to go in and visit and say hello, but they're just bouncing off the walls, and I just.
Oh.
So you're okay. So you're teaching preschool. That's wonderful.
Yes, and I've been helping
Our
out.
new preschool.
Yes.
A brand new preschool.
Oh, and it's wonderful, and they're doing a really great job up
Yeah,
there.
very proud of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so and what other grades?
So I've had an experience teaching all of the grades here except for kindergarten, because I'm in St. James 4 days a week, but one day a week I have a virtual religious life class and then in-person religious life class, Sister Marianne. So unfortunately I can't be there for kindergarten music class. But I have helped out a little bit with kindergarten. I also take temperatures in the morning. I cross children across
well, of course.
the streets.
All right. You're if you're teaching at a parochial school, it's going to be other duties as assigned, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think probably with any school
Right.
that's the case, right? You just so now, but they're not allowed to sing, correct?
Yeah.
So, so what music are they doing?
Well, it has been a time to get
Can
creative.
they lip sync?
I haven't gotten quite that creative because I mean, even if they lip sync, they're wearing a mask, so you can't see them lip syncing.
It's true.
The 6th grade, they're working on guitars right now. Let's think. I know the middle school. Well, they're working on a composer project, but they've been doing stuff with. Have you seen like the cup music where you can have the kids do all sorts of different things? 5th grade, I've been working with them on instrument families. For this week, I'm doing the elementary school, and I'm doing a St. Patrick's Day special, and there's a game you can play with
Bagpipes. Right?
Well, I'm going to be teaching them not about bagpipes, but the Ilian pipes, which are the Irish version of bagpipes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Right. That's just really outdid me there. Okay. So, and what instruments do you play?
So I was saying I play viola, guitar, ukulele, and piano. Part of music school is you have to learn, have a basic knowledge of how to play all the instruments, because if you were asked to teach them, you need to know how to play them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not quite all of them, though.
Do you want me to go through the list? Because I had a woodwind class, a brass class, a
okay.
string class.
Okay. So you learn a little bit about those, but you don't.
It's not like I'm
them.
like, oh, I don't have a clarinet and I'm not very attached to it. I'm like, let me whip it out and
What
play
about a banjo and a steel guitar?
I'll work on that.
Okay.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
See if we have one lying around at the mother house.
Great. So, all right. So, what advice to young women who might be considering religious life?
Yeah, I would say most important, definitely get to know the sisters, different communities, see what they're like, how do they actually live out their life. I think that's so helpful because you get to see them joyfully living out their life and you think, oh, if they're not miserable, like I could be not miserable doing this too.
That's kind of it's funny. It sounds like a low bar, but it really is kind of. I mean, and I think that applies to any vocation, right?
Yes.
Like if you see marriage lived out joyfully, you say, "Well, gosh, I'd kind of like to be married then." And
exactly.
you see religious life lived out joyfully, you say, "Yeah, okay."
I could see myself doing that. Yeah. And then I would just say, remain faithful to prayer and the sacraments. That's super, super key. And if you're at a more serious part in your discernment, maybe finding a spiritual director if you can might be important.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, finding other young women who are discerning. That was super helpful for me to know. I'm not in this alone.
Right. Not some outlier, just...
Exactly. And some of my best friends have been other young women who I've met through discernment and been able to have, like, serious conversations like, is this happening to you too? Am I going crazy? What's happening here?
Okay. Great. What prayers would you recommend? Are there particular prayers or a particular kind of manner of prayer that you would recommend?
I would say if you could go to adoration, that would be great. Lectio Divina would be great. Our order has a great devotion to the Rosary, so if you could pray the Rosary.
And the Angelus.
And the Angelus.
There's a great devotion of the Angelus in your order, right? Yeah.
And probably spiritual reading, because that's where you're going to find out about, like, discernment is from doing it and also reading about it. Sister Marian, you gave me a great book a little while ago. It was on before I entered on Ignatian discernment. That was wonderful.
Was that one of Father Gallagher's books?
It might have been, or it could have
Discernment
been Mark Thibodeau.
Okay.
The Voice Within. Was it The Voice?
I don't think so.
No. It might have been one of Father Gallagher's, Tim Gallagher's books.
Yeah, those are very good.
Yes.
Yeah. And his brother's a parishioner.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
How about that?
Yeah. Okay, great. Now, do you want to try to answer some of the questions that have been submitted to Rectory Ramblings? Okay.
Oh, you guys are official. You got questions sent in and everything.
Okay.
Oh, nice pages.
Okay. Please explain why in the Latin rite the epiclesis precedes the anamnesis, and in the Eastern rite the anamnesis precedes epiclesis, and the relative merits of each.
No.
I don't think.
No?
that you want to
Okay.
answer.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. This is one that Father Agent and I actually we addressed before, but why isn't there any humor in the Bible?
There's humor in the Bible.
Where?
Well, I think at the resurrection where Saint Mary Magdalene is clinging to Jesus and he's like, I haven't ascended yet. Like, I think he just told a joke there. I haven't ascended into heaven yet. And he's like, you have to cling to me. I think that's a joke.
How about that donkey?
I think there's something deeper going on there.
How about that donkey that stops and
yeah,
that's pretty funny.
It is funny. The donkey who won't obey and he keeps trying to come on.
Yeah. There is humor in there.
No, there absolutely is. It is humor in the Bible. The scene that I've Father Agent and I keep gesturing over to because Father Agent's right there. Can't get everybody on camera, but well, first of all, when our Lord says, take out the beam in your own eye before you take out the splinter or the speck in your brother's eye, right? So it's, I mean, if you put it in cartoon form, it would be a very funny scene. This guy with a 2x4 sticking out of his eye, and he's looking at his buddy and saying, hey, hold still, right? Yeah. And so it's, I think, we just had this reading, I guess it was Saturday, the Pharisee and the tax collector, and the Pharisee takes up his position, and Luke, most of the funny lines, actually the Gospels are Luke, and in Luke's Gospel, he takes up his position and he prays this prayer to himself. And he's like, wait a minute, why? So that kind of gives away the whole lesson. But the one that I think is our Lord teasing and sort of teasing people and joking, is when he the parable of the dinner party, when he says when you're invited to a dinner party, don't take the highest seat because somebody more important might come and you'll have to move down and you'll look bad in front of everyone else. Take the lowest seat. That way, when you get shifted up higher, you'll look really good. And so, how are we to interpret this parable? And my contention is, our Lord does not actually mean that parable, as official dinner party advice. He's teasing them because he sees that they're doing this precise thing. And so he's kind of teasing them. I think he's saying it with a grin on his face, tweaking them a little bit. And then, of course, at the end, he sort of turns the knife, if you will. It says, for whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. And one last example. In the book of Job, which is not typically related, not typically associated with humor, but Job at one point says, he's kind of making fun of one of the guys who comes to give him all this advice, and he says, oh yes, with you all wisdom will die. He says like, oh yeah, you're so smart. And it's, so yes, there's plenty of humor in the Bible. Okay, here is another one. And oh yes, we'll do this one because it's from one of your students. Right, Kieran? Yes, it's from one of your first graders.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, Kieran. Okay, so Kieran Sullivan, who will doubtlessly be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, after hearing Father Agent's homily at the 9 a.m. Mass, I guess it was a week ago, he asks, what does it mean to fear the Lord?
That is a good question.
Is he out to get us?
No.
Are we supposed to run away from him? Hide? What's going on?
No. Do you want to take that one, sister? It means more of like in awe of the Lord is the alternative I was always taught. It's easier to think of in awe of the Lord and just in wonder at his great might and his glory.
That's good.
Okay. I was going to say you can hop in at any time.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a little bit of this sense of God is so great and God is so loving that I fear messing that up. Like I don't want to in any way not be a part of that love and a part of that greatness of God. So it gives me a sense of this is why I don't want to sin, because of God's that awe. And so I practice that by staying close to him, not by running away from him, like fear.
Yeah, that's a great point, and because it kind of brings out the paradox, which is that fear of the Lord should draw us closer to Him.
Exactly.
Right, and it's not fright of the Lord. When
No.
we're frightened of something, we just avoid it. No, fear of the Lord should make us cling to Him more, because we don't want to be apart from that power.
And
that
I
might.
think it's related to reverence. That sense of, this is just so holy and so good.
Right.
My love of God and God's love for me.
And it's what we encounter in Scripture, right? Whenever someone in Scripture encounters or becomes aware of the divine, Moses has to be told, take off your sandals because you're on holy ground, and it's sort of, Moses needs to be trained in this fear of the Lord. Peter, when he realizes that the man sitting in his boat, after this miraculous catch of fish, this man in his boat he realizes who he is. He falls on his knees and says, "Depart from me, O Lord, from a sinful man." And so that's sort of the proper first response is, as you said, awe or reverence.
And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the psalmist says. So knowing God's greatness, then our decisions and the things that we do, that's where our wisdom comes from.
Right. And it would be foolish not to fear Him. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, Father, I think we'll let that go. So, anyway, thank you for joining us this evening on Rectory Ramblings. Sister Marianne, Alexis, thank you so much for being here, for speaking so joyfully about religious life.
And once again, I want to echo Alexis' thanks to the community at St. James. It has really been absolute joy for us to be here. And
wonderful.
So we thank the people of St. James, but especially want to thank the sisters at St. James. Yeah.
And the fish fry.
Oh, yeah, that's good too.
Yes. It's so good.
Very good. Now,
Thank you.
Next, we'll be back again next, a week from today, on the 22nd. And unfortunately, Father Ajan will not be with us that evening. But Donnie McManus will join us and to speak about Catholicism and art and artwork and the place of beauty in our faith. So join us on the 22nd at 8 p.m. Thanks so much. God bless.